going to get started with our demos. If everyone can, my name is David Heck. I'm organizer. Thanks for coming. We do this every other month, so next one is April 2nd. Thanks to Tableau for sponsoring our lovely event here. My name is David. I'm the founder of CloudAmp. I do a couple of marketing apps for Salesforce, Google Analytics integration, lead tracking, have a credit card processing app too. So that's my pitch. Thanks to Tableau for sponsoring. Thanks to Geekdom, which is Rackspace's co-working space for developers, for hosting this every time. If anyone's a developer, you're looking for a cool place to work, I think the desks here start at $250 a month. Pretty fun place to work. I hang out here most of the time. And without further ado, we've got two great demos, Tableau and Blue Nose. So I'd like to introduce Ellie Fields from Tableau, who flew down all the way from Seattle to be with us. So
yeah.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thanks, hey everyone. I'm Ellie Fields. I've been with Tableau over 5 years now. I'm a longtime data geek. I was an engineer. I'm a refugee from the finance industry, and love technology. Every role I've ever been in, I've been kind of a data geek. So I'm pretty happy when I get to play around with data, and Tableau lets me do that. This is one of the only meetups I've been to that does drinks first, presentation second. So I'm really expecting a lot from this today. And I think it's going to be a good demo and a good crowd. Add a card, by the way, for a data hoodie. At Tableau, we're passionate about several things. Data is one of them. Data gear is another thing. So we have some unique data hoodies. They come in different sizes, which is why I didn't just bring one to give it out. All you women out there, we do actually have women's sizes, which is nice.
Will this presentation be available after the event so that we can sleep through it?
Yes, it will be, but I heard from David that you all don't like PowerPoint, so I've got the minimal PowerPoint. It's going to be mostly demo. I do think someone's videoing it. So we also have a bunch of stuff on our site, and you can find bits and pieces of other demos as well. So the main question I ask myself a lot when I think about sales analytics is, why is so much of it so bad? Sales dashboards are typically some of the worst dashboards you see. They're just really, really bad. And we'll look at some examples of those because it's really fun to make fun of them. But there's a lot of reasons that has to do with canned data, data that doesn't change, dashboards that can't change. So what I'm here to talk about are the three elements of a great sales dashboard. And I'll show you a demo with Tableau and Salesforce. To me, a dashboard is a lot like a sandwich. The things that make a good sandwich are the insides, which is kind of the meat of the sandwich, the structure that holds it all together, and then the integration between the two. So let's talk about the insides of our sandwich, the data. When we're talking about sales analytics, most of your data is going to be in Salesforce. Switch over to Tableau. We do not have a Mac product out yet. It's coming in our next release. So what you see here is a virtual machine. By the way, people usually ask that question. I'm going to open up Tableau, and what you see here is Tableau Desktop. It's the basic authoring tool of Tableau. And I'm going to go ahead and just connect to data. So I'm starting fresh here. Tableau offers connections to a lot of different data sources. One of the things we believe is that you ought to be able to work with all your data in one place, because one of the problems with sales dashboards typically is that they only include sales data, which is really important, but sales data is also really important in the context of product data or employee data or other data. So we're going to go ahead and connect to Salesforce here. To do that, all I need is my username and password. And what I'm going to connect to is a demo instance, because I would get fired if I showed you our real data. And this is some demo data we've loaded up into Salesforce. So I'm going to go ahead and establish a connection. And Tableau is going to check my credentials. And as we're bringing the data in, you'll see something called a standard connection here. One of the things we're trying to do is make it easy to work with your data. Now, any of you who are familiar with Salesforce data know that it's in lots of different tables, some of which are custom, some of which are standard, but it's kind of chunked out into a lot of different tables. We've done some standard joins on some of those tables. So for example, if you want to analyze your opportunities, you can choose the opportunity standard join, and it's going to have some things like account and opportunity joined together so that you can go work with them. You can also go and do your own joins and connect to any table in Salesforce. But this is a nice kind of kickstart. So what Tableau is doing now is using that API to reach out and go get all the data from this sample instance. It's going to take just a couple of minutes. So we're going to go look at some bad dashboards. So quick pop quiz. Which one of these is a chicken? Right, it's the one on the right. I hope I didn't need to tell you that. Why do I have this up here? Because to me, a great sales dashboard or any great dashboard passes the 5-second test. What do I mean by that? Next quiz, what is this dashboard about?
Chickens?
Very complicated.
It might be about chickens, it's really hard to tell.
Speed.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on this dashboard where you can see some titles here, top opportunities, current pipeline, opportunities, some gauges. You kind of have to read everything on the page before you have a clue what this dashboard's about. And even when you do that, you're left a bit curious about why these particular views were chosen here. So to me, this in addition to many flaws of this dashboard, this fails the 5-second test. What is this dashboard about?
Statistics.
Yeah.
Growth
Items.
is all over the place, all over the board.
Yeah, this dashboard takes the approach, and this is a Tableau dashboard. I'm not trying to make a tool point here. You can make bad stuff with any tool. This one happens to be bad in Tableau. This author took the approach of I'm going to put every single view I could possibly create on the same dashboard at the same time. Typically, you want to focus your dashboards on one or more questions at a time. In Tableau, at least, dashboards are free. So you really want to focus one on a set of questions you might ask or a set of outcomes you might be looking for. You know, we talk a lot about visual analytics best practices at Tableau. We try to build that into the product with our color schemes and a lot of other things. For example, we don't offer 3D pie charts as a view type for a reason, because they're a poor way to represent data. Nor do we offer gauges. But in this case, a lot of the best practices are still broken. For example, there are multiple color schemes here. There's a blue-blue color scheme and a couple of red-blue color schemes. We don't know if they're the same red-blue color scheme. We don't know how they relate. It's really confusing to try and dig into this. And this dashboard, I mean, as a basic flaw, it just doesn't have a title over the whole thing. So it's really hard to grok this dashboard. Another bad Tableau dashboard. It's really hard to figure what this one is about. If you read in the legend down here, you can start to get a sense that it might be about something medical or equipment related. And there's some trend data here, but it's a count of something. We don't know what we're counting. So there's a lot of problems with this dashboard too. And I just go into this because there are a lot of bad dashboards out there, and I particularly see this in sales. Partly because, you know, Salesforce, God love them, for as many of the great things as they've done and come out with a great platform, their analytics just aren't really that good. Now this is a dashboard that I think follows a lot more of those practices. So pop quiz, what is this one about?
Salesforce.
Yeah, sales overview, right? You don't have to, it's not making you do detective work. It says, hey, this is a sales overview. You get the sense that everything here is about sales. You can see the total sales, the total deals, and the average deal size. Some very important metrics popped at the top. You can see a time trend. I don't have to guess what it is. Weekly sales by account type, okay, good. Total run of sales by account type, okay, good. And I can kind of see that most of my sales are clustered in the US and Australia for some reason, and a few in other areas. And I've got a simple legend and some filters that are all grouped together. So there's a lot you can go into in dashboard design if you're interested in visual analytics and best practices. You can find a lot on our website, but there are some very basic things you can do. Here's another one that I think is a pretty good one. Again, this is about open pipeline. This isn't about 10 different things at once. This is about your open pipeline, deals that have not closed and whether or not they're going to close. So you can see your pipeline amount by stage over time. Again, you've got some filters nicely grouped over here, a color legend that applies equally to the whole dashboard, and you know, you can see who's got the biggest pipeline, where the stage is, and you can even click into individual deals. So this is the kind of dashboard that somebody would be in day by day if they're a sales manager managing their pipeline, trying to figure out what changed, who needs help, what deals are close and what's going to close. Just one more example to drive the point home. Lead flow. Again, This is a very specific dashboard. Where are we getting our leads from? Well, it looks like we're getting our leads from a lot of sources, but mostly the website, and we had a spike here, maybe we ran a promotion here, that's worth digging into, and technology is our biggest industry, and again, you can see leads correlate a lot to opportunities, which we would expect, but it's a very brisk overview of a specific area. And before we go into the third part, I'm actually going to go back and get that data. So we talked a little bit about the structure. That was the good and bad dashboard, the 5-second test. Let's talk about the insights a little bit more. Tableau's finished going and fetching the data from Salesforce, and what we have is a lot of data in a data window over here. You can see that my data source is opportunities, and all of these are tables that have been joined together in my standard join. And you can see some familiar fields if you've been working with Salesforce a lot. Now this is the basic authoring interface of Tableau. How many people work with Tableau or are familiar with this? Just a few. So I'll just show you a few things. What we're trying to do is let anybody drag and drop and interact with their data, whether they know SQL or they're a data scientist or anything. So the first thing I might be interested in is, what's the total amount of my sales? And I simply double-clicked on amount of opportunities, and I can see the total amount up here. A common thing to do is to say, well, what's the timeline of that? And I can come over and just look at a timeline, drill into different areas. Our demo data doesn't extend into 2013 and 2014, that's why I see a drop off there. I can go back. The handy back button will take me back as many times as I want. I can create a very quick filter, for example on date, and drill this down into a couple of years. So it's a highly visual interface. And I can even go and say, let me change my line type here. I can make it a bar chart, or in this case I'm going to make it an area chart. So what Tableau is trying to do is give you a visual interface for your data. In the back end, these are all getting translated into queries that are going into the Salesforce data and bringing back these visual results. But really, it's trying to give you the physical way to interact with your data. Another thing I might be interested in is, let's look at opportunity type. And I'm going to drag that onto the view. I'm going to drag it onto color is one of the things we say in Tableau. We drag it onto color. And what that has done is now broken up my view of amount of opportunities by opportunity ID, opportunity type. And you can see those down here. New business, partner program, visual analytics best practices, again, is to highlight as you click on a legend, and so you can do that. You can add all kinds of custom things to this, but really we're trying to make the out-of-the-box experience as easy and as intuitive as possible. And I'm actually going to just drag opportunity type off and go back to a blue. So just like in Excel, we look at these things like sheets. This is a sheet in Tableau, and I'm going to call this sales, just sales over time. I'm going to start a new sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and drag out amount again, but this time I want to cut it by the account owner, the salesperson. And simply by dropping those out, let me back up and show you that again. Amount and salesperson. Tableau assumed I want a bar chart. That's the most natural chart type for this. I kind of wanted it to be moved the other way, so I can use my favorite button, the swap button, to reverse the rows and columns. And I'm just visually interacting with my data. I can sort right in the view. I can see who my biggest salespeople are. And now I'm hitting a little bit of a roadblock because this data is interesting, but the next thing I really want to do is see what people are achieving relative to their quota. And my quota information, like with many people, is in a spreadsheet off to the side of my data. So this is one of the most common things people want to do with data, is mash up different kinds of data, blend different kinds of data. And I have that quota information here. Same people, tells me what team they're on, and it tells me what quota they have. Well, in Tableau, I can simply connect to data, bring in another data source here. Here's my sales quota sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and import it into our data engine, which just makes it a little bit faster. It takes a few seconds to do that. With many data sources, you can either connect live or bring it in memory in Tableau. In this case, I'm choosing to bring it in memory. So now I have two data sources open, and Tableau knows that account owner name is present in both. So it's told me, hey, I'm going to create a relationship on these two things. It'll do that automatically for any fields that are in common, whether it's state or date or account ID or owner name. And that's a very, very handy thing to happen. You can also define that specifically if you want, but Tableau will do it for you automatically. So now I can do some interesting things like I can drag team onto color, and I can see where my commercial, enterprise, and mid-market teams are and who's a member of what team.
So when you mentioned online, is that the RTP process? RTP?
Sorry?
Real-time processing online? Is that
Um,
captured after so many milliseconds in time and then used as data?
You mean, are we aggregating the data?
Yeah, because there's an option for online. Is that real-time
So online is,
processing?
we'll get to online. We're
Oh,
not,
okay.
we're not working with online at all right now.
Oh,
Tableau
okay.
Online. Yeah. Another thing I can do is I can just create a hierarchy simply by dragging things around. So now team and account owner name are actually part of a hierarchy. And if I click in and out, whoops. If I click in and out, I can collapse them and expand them. Take this one down. So here's all my teams. Let me put that on color again so you can see it a little bit better. And I can click that back and forth to show the members or not. So there's a lot of flexibility you can do with this. If I want to include quota, let me go ahead and include quota here. So if I want to include quota, I'm just going to go ahead and put quota in level of detail, and I'm actually going to add a reference line here, which is a neat way to do it. I'm going to add the sum of quota per cell because I want it for every single person. You don't have to follow this exactly. This is one of our standard dialogues for reference lines. And I'm just going to say, show me gray where the quota is. And you can see where quota shows up here. Now it looks like everyone's way over quota, maybe because we're looking at all the data. So I'm going to go ahead and take that filter that I applied and just select that I want it to work against all data sources. And I'm just going to choose 2012. And now you can see that if I have my 2012 quota and my 2012 data, I've got some people who are above quota, some people who are below quota, and I can start to get a sense of my data. I brought two data sources together right in the view. And that's a really powerful thing to be able to do with Salesforce. So we're going to call this one quota. And then I can create a dashboard. And a dashboard is basically a way to relate different views of data. It's a very powerful analytic technique. And let me just drag these views out onto the dashboard. Just like creating a view, creating a dashboard is a drag and drop experience. And I can go and do all kinds of formatting, and I can create a report title. Let's call this 2012 sales. Oops. And now I've got a dashboard. I've got some nice, one nice filter on there. I could quickly add another filter just by coming in here and saying I'd like a quick filter on, let's say, sum of amount. And I can actually see then who my top performing salespeople are, or I could look at my lowest performing salespeople. So just in a few minutes we've created a dashboard, and now I'm going to head over to Tableau Online, which is our hosted server product. Tableau sells also an on-premise server product we call Tableau Server. Tableau Online is our hosted cloud product. And so this is a look at Tableau Online. There are a number of published workbooks here. This is how I share and collaborate on data. So I just created a great dashboard showing me all my sales quotas for the year and my sales results. I might want to publish that up here. So what I'm going to do is just head on up back here to Tableau Desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and publish this dashboard.
When will this product be available natively on Mac?
Q2.
Okay.
We're about to enter a beta with it. So it'll be available in
What is this product called again?
the product we've been working in mostly is Tableau Desktop. It's you can get it from a free trial from our website. The server product, the one that we just looked at on the web, is Tableau Online. And so now I can publish this workbook. Now the nice thing about Tableau Online is that you can add all kinds of permissions to it. So you can either use native permissions, you can use Active Directory. We've even investigated using Salesforce permissions via Canvas. So Canvas and SAML, if any of you are familiar with those technologies. So you have a lot of options for using authentication here. And I could click in and say I want different permissions for different groups. I'm not going to do that right now, but I'm just going to go ahead and publish this dashboard to the site. We're going to call this, 2012 sales. So now what it's telling me is I must embed the credentials because one of these data sources required credentials, which was Salesforce, so I have to either embed those or request them. That's just something you can choose whichever one you want to do. And so now I'm publishing this up so I can send it in an email link to anybody anywhere. The nice thing about Tableau Online is that if you have somebody who's just in a browser, you can simply email a link. And as long as they have credentials, they don't need to download anything, they don't need to be anywhere. There's a mobile app with nice touch optimized filters and so on. So all of those things are nice, and now I can go in and see this dashboard here. The other nice thing I can do with Tableau Online is I can publish a data source. And that takes just a minute, so I won't show you. It's basically the same process, it's just a couple of clicks to publish. But I published one earlier tonight with the same data. And you can go into that data source and take a look at it. You can add full refreshes and incremental refreshes. And this is really important with Salesforce data, right? Because you don't want to worry about whether it's fresh or not. You just want to go and fetch it from the API. What most people do is they fetch it every few hours or daily and then do a full refresh every week. But say you had somebody, say you were on the road, you weren't back at your desktop, you're on your mobile device or just in a browser, and you wanted to do a new analysis. With a published data source, not only can you keep it up to date by going over the API, but you can actually do some of that authoring in a little bit of a less rich tool right on the web. So I clicked into that data source that I published earlier, and you can see that same kind of data environment here. And so again, I can take account, take opportunity amount, drag it out. I can look at close date again. Let's drag that out. And I can look at any kind of information I'm interested in. So let's go ahead and get product name out, drag that onto color. And then again, I can change the chart type and so on. So these are all things that you can do working with your data on the fly. There's a couple of different kinds of analysis people want to do. They often want these very set dashboards, like your pipeline dashboard, your lead dashboard, but you also want to be able to do ad hoc analysis because it does, you often do have questions while you're out on the road, you're talking to someone, you're in a meeting, and if you need to leave that meeting and go build a whole dashboard and get IT to go build it for you or set it up or get a developer, chances are you're just not going to answer that question. You're going to make whatever decision you have to make without actually getting the data about it. So ad hoc analysis on the road is really important with Tableau. So the third part of the sandwich that I was talking about is integration. How does it all work together? And what I mean by that in this context is, where do your dashboards live? Your salespeople are probably in Salesforce all day long. Your dashboards should probably be there too. So I've signed into Salesforce as Julie Owens, that's my alter ego, and I may be an account rep. And I can click over to Accounts Dashboard, and we've done some integration using Salesforce Canvas, where I can actually take a dashboard that's working against the live data source and is updated on a schedule, and put it right here where I'm working every day. And this is my account dashboard, and I can see I've got a bunch of accounts in technology, and I've had some good months and some bad months. Looks like I don't have a lot of pipeline, and that's a problem. It's a big problem. Even if I closed all the deals in my pipeline right now, there's no way I'd be able to make my quota. So I can go in and start understanding why my pipeline is low. I can use analytics right in the flow of my everyday business inside Salesforce to help me. And one of the things I noticed as I look at my fairly anemic pipeline is this account, who's one of my bigger accounts. And they have an opportunity in place. So I'm actually going to go over to that account view, and I'm using the data to navigate directly to accounts and opportunities, which is a really powerful thing to do cognitively because you don't have to then go search for something. As you're asking questions and getting understanding, you can actually go to the next step just with a click. So as I go into this account, Nullifacilesis, I get a little summary dashboard of this account. I can see how much they purchased over time, how many opportunities. I've mostly won them, but I lost a big one, and it looks like they have a new one on the table, so that's really interesting. And I can also see all the opportunity detail, and I can see that this particular account has had not many opportunities, but has been a pretty profitable account, or has been buying a lot of product based on how big they are. So I'm gonna click into this opportunity because this might be a chance for me to develop my pipeline. And it looks like they're gonna buy, there's an opportunity on the table here for them to buy our standard product. And again, what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at this particular opportunity ranked with a lot of other opportunities. Now these are some dashboards we created. You might create different ones, but the idea is to get the data right in the middle of what you're doing and right in the middle of the decisions people are making about who to call on, which opportunities to spend time on. And I can see that this particular opportunity is actually pretty small relative to what people buy in this product. And I may call this company up and say, hey, you've been a big customer, let's talk about how you're using this product. A lot of people have found that a larger deployment works and have that conversation. And then I can go in and edit the data, take the opportunity from 150,000 to 1,150,000 because sales is just that easy. And then I can save it, and the next time Tableau goes and pulls data from the API, whether I've said that's 3 hours from now or tonight or however I have to find it, you're gonna see that update right here in the view. And so that's what I mean by integration. That's really powerful with analytics. We find that no matter how good your dashboards and analytics are, if they're off to the side, and especially salespeople who are kind of doing things all day long and really busy, if they have to go to another place to go figure out their data, they're not gonna go do it. This is true also of store managers and others. Yes?
Were we looking at an iframe window, or was there some deeper integration involved? Because I saw that we were able to, click and deep dive into opportunities and accounts.
Yeah, we're in JavaScript. It's not iframe, which means it works great on tablets and so on.
Okay.
This is fully JavaScript application, and what it was doing when it was loading that page was actually reaching out to Tableau Online. So this is a view that was published on Tableau Online. We can go find it in Tableau Online over here. We can actually go find that exact view, and it's being rendered inside Salesforce. You can do it in an iframe in Salesforce. You can render inside an iframe, or you can render using Canvas. The Tableau technology is JavaScript.
Okay.
So, and if you're interested in embedding, I have some resources. I'm not going to go too deep into it, just saying that there are multiple ways to do it inside Salesforce. Canvas is really nice. An iframe is kind of our quick and dirty embed, but with an iframe you can't pass things back and forth. With Canvas you can pass opportunity IDs, account IDs, so you can pass a little bit of information and say, by the way, show me this opportunity, show me this account, versus just show me a dashboard that's sitting in a black hole. The other nice thing about Canvas is it lets you use Salesforce authentication. And it's over HTTPS, so it's a little bit more secure than using an iframe.
Is Canvas a part of Force.com or is it something else?
I believe they classify it in Force.com. I'm not sure how Salesforce looks at it. It came out last summer and we've been using it since the beta. It's a really neat technology.
So what is it exactly? Is it a programming paradigm, programming framework? What is
It's a
Canvas?
programming framework that establishes how you can basically, an embedded application can talk to Salesforce. They've always had the iframe method, but again, it's kind of for those of you who know iframes, you basically are allowed to put an iframe there and it's a black hole, whatever's in there is in there, and there's not much talking between the embedded app. Some of the stuff we've been able to do here is because of that, that nice Canvas integration. We actually have an iframe implementation in this same demo instance, and it looks a little bit more like this. And there's some dashboards that a manager might look at saying, hey, let's take a look at some of these accounts, lead management and so on. And this happens to be an iframe implementation. We've just worked with a few different ways to do it. And this is that lead flow dashboard that we saw earlier, fully interactive, you can filter and so on. And so if I were a sales manager at this company or a marketing manager, I might be very interested in where the lead flow is coming from. So the embeddedness is actually, technologically, it's not that hard, but it's a really big step in terms of getting people to use better analytics. And you can embed these with blends, just like we saw the blend of Quota. Because this is being served from Tableau, you can get any data you want in there. And I'm going to wrap up the demo portion of this because I know I have about a half an hour. I would love to take a couple of questions as well. Just a quick note. basically what's happening is, this is describing the API calls. In this case, I'm saying that Tableau server is pulling information from Salesforce at 11 p.m. daily. That's a schedule you would set. And it's serving that up to different views. They may be views that are published and sitting out there. It may be the ad hoc kind of view that I was showing. We're just going to go and work with this data source. But that's how it works. And you can do that with any data source. If you have a SQL database or an Oracle database, you can set Tableau to run against it live. A lot of times that creates a little bit too much load on those, especially transactional databases. So you usually want to set that up as an extract or a snapshot of the data, but it really depends on the data source that you're working with. So the last element of a sandwich is how delicious it is. And to me, if a sandwich is delicious, your next step is to eat it. If a dashboard is delicious, I define that by there is an obvious next step. If the dashboard doesn't suggest anything that you might do, hey, I'm going to go investigate those deals in the pipeline that look like they're lagging. Hey, I'm going to go look at why we had so many leads in March and can we replicate it. If your dashboard is answering a good question, it's also probably suggesting a course of action. And to me, that's a delicious dashboard because it's useful. And you could do your analysis while you eat a sandwich. Just to recap, the insides, the structure, and the integration make for a delicious dashboard sandwich. And so what we're looking to help people do is to build killer dashboards that support action and put them where you do your work. Those are the three elements that we were talking about. I'm Ellie Fields. I'd love to take a couple of questions. I'm on Twitter, by the way, at EleanorPD, and that's my email address. Data Hoodie is some of our most popular gear. If you put your card in and we choose your card, I'd be happy to send you a Data Hoodie in your size and gender. So thank you very much.
Thank you. What's the pricing model?
Pricing model. So Tableau Desktop is $2,000 a user. Tableau Server is $1,000. That's the on-premise collaboration product. Tableau Online that we just saw is $500 per user per year.
So for the Salesforce integration, would each user use the dashboards need to have a license?
Yeah, the question is for Salesforce integration, would each user who wants to use it need a license? Yes, they need a license to Salesforce, and they need a license to Tableau. One of the things that we believe strongly in our pricing philosophy is we are not a nickel and dime company. Upgrades come free when you buy a license. Things like integration to Salesforce or new data sources come free. We're always adding new data sources. We're about to add Splunk. We've added a whole bunch. I mean, you saw the list, but we've added probably 10 or 15 over the last year. We don't go and say, hey, you need to pay us another $200 a user to go use that one. When you pay the money for the product you buy, you get pretty much everything we're going to do for a long time, and you get access to whatever's in there at the price you buy it, and we're not, you don't get a whole list of add-ons.
I was just wondering two things. First, what is the best resource for us to keep up to the speed on your company and your product? Is there any discussion forum that is very lively? Second, there's an open source product called 3D or something. When do we use that and when do we use Tableau, or they are complete orthogonal to each other?
The first question, how do you keep up to date? We have a pretty active blog. Almost all important company news, new integrations, product news, and so on comes out there. We're very active on Twitter too, and Facebook. Twitter is probably, I would say, if you're really interested in product news, is the best. And the blog, Twitter and the blog. We do have something called Viz of the Day where you can actually get a viz from our Tableau public service. So journalists use that, bloggers and so on. And you can kind of see cool new vizes as they come out. Published to the public server, not corporate servers, obviously. The second one, I'm not familiar with that particular open source tool. There's a number of open source tools and other tools in BI. I mean, we have a lot of customers that have multiple environments inside their company and they use different ones for different things. We tend to think that Tableau can be your only BI tool, your only data tool, and we have many customers where that's the case. And they use it both for their set dashboards and their ad hoc analytics. But you know, there might be, there are certainly reasons to use other tools at other times.
How many different data sources can the software support?
Good question. It's technically unlimited because we have an ODBC connector, which is kind of your fallback. So if you have old custom databases, you usually end up going through ODBC. But that's a little bit clunky. What we prefer people to do, that's kind of your last resort. We write native connectors to most popular data sources, and we're always adding more. We're always evaluating new data sources. We're at this incredible age of innovation now in data, with new people coming out with new data sources all the time. So when one gets to a point where a few customers are asking for it, and we think that data source contributes something really special, we'll add a native connector to it. And I think we have about 30 now. Here's Aster. There are a number of different flavors of Hadoop, which we basically connect to via Hive. SAP HANA, Teradata, Windows Azure, Data Market, SQL Server, Power Pivot. We connect to Power Pivot natively in the in SharePoint. So Google Analytics is another one like Salesforce. It's a cloud-to-cloud connection. But if all that fails and your data source isn't in here because it's an old, obscure one, you would drop down to the ODBC connector, which just means that you wouldn't have an optimized connection. We wouldn't be optimizing for performance or for different things that backend database can do. We really like to take advantage of the speed of that backend databases. So for example, if you're connecting to a Teradata or a Vertica that's optimized for analytics, we're going to let that database do a lot of the processing if you connect live. Slower databases, transactional databases like SQL, we want to do that processing because we think we can do it faster. So with every data source, we're trying to kind of give you the best experience based on what's in it.
Okay.
We are using VoltDB, which is in-memory database.
Volta?
It's called VoltDB.
Volt.
VOLTB.
Yeah.
It's in-memory database. I was wondering, similar to Vertica, where there's a lot of processing they are doing. I
Yeah.
didn't see that. So what will be required for us to have Tableau as a visualization engine in front of it?
Good question. You could try ODBC, although that'd be a little slow, I think. If your question is how do I advocate for a new data connection,
Yes.
I know we have VoltDB on the radar. I mean, we track basically everything we see out there. You could add an idea in our ideas forum on our website.
Ideas? I just want
Yeah, we actually have an ideas forum as part of our support, which it's right in it's actually under support ideas, and we're in there all the time, and we mark them as beta as we bring out new products. Our program managers and product managers are in there reading what customers want, and you can see, we like to use our own technology, you can see which ideas have been voted on the most and which are most popular, and you can add comments and so on. So that's a really good way to add a vote for a new data source.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.